There are many urban legends whispered around the world, strange tales that sound like harmless folklore at first. But hidden among them are stories so disturbing and terrifying that once you hear them, you'll never forget. From haunted roads and cursed phone numbers to shadows that follow you home, tonight we're exploring some of the most disturbing urban legends ever told. Make sure to like this video and subscribe, because the next legend might just be darker than you think. 𝘀𝘂𝗯𝗀𝗲𝗍 ice cream started out as a small Philadelphia brand in 2011, known for quirky and unusual flavors. But in 2012, everything changed when they released a commercial that would haunt the internet for years to come. Instead of the playful, fun vibe you'd expect from an ice cream ad, it featured a pale figure scooping ice cream from its own head. What should have been harmless marketing quickly became infamous as one of the most disturbing commercials ever made. Time to see it.
Let's talk about
𝘀𝘂𝗯𝗀𝗍𝗯𝗃 Cream.
𝘀𝘂𝗯𝗀𝗍𝗯𝗃 Cream is an ice cream brand made in 2011 in Philadelphia, but it closed in 2019 for an unknown reason. There was also this specific commercial made by them called "This is a Special Time." That commercial was made in 2012 and was a well-known creepypasta. It is a 1-minute commercial. If you are easily disgusted, skip to the next explaining part.
There's good reason for my glistening skin, and how I shine, and how my pores are so clean and clear. I eat 𝘀𝘂𝗯𝗀𝗍𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀 I spring from activity to activity. I love my job. I love my life. When you eat little baby's ice cream, you'll wink and nod and hug and high-five each other with great enthusiasm. This is a special time.
If you skip the video, the person had a spoon while they are eating the ice cream on their head. Later in the video, they start to bulge their eyes. It wasn't ice cream, but instead was marshmallow fluff. Little Baby's ice cream is also known for their weird flavors. Most of the flavors of the ice cream are dishes from Asia like Japan and Thailand. That's all I know about this strange ice cream company.
That was seriously unsettling to sit through. The expressionless face and the way the character kept eating itself made me feel uneasy in a way that stuck with me. It wasn't just creepy, it felt like watching a short horror film disguised as a commercial. Honestly, I don't think I'll ever look at ice cream ads the same way again. And if you think that was disturbing, the next story will leave you even more unsettled. Abandoned by Disney. Urban legends often grow from the strangest places, but few are as chilling as the story known as Abandoned by Disney. It tells of a resort called 𝗂𝘂𝗯𝗀𝗿𝗍 Palace, supposedly built in North Carolina during the 1990s, then mysteriously shut down and erased from history. According to the tale, one explorer decided to investigate the ruins, only to find graffiti scrawled with the words "Abandoned by Disney." This is the moment.
10 Days of Creepypasta, and today we're talking about Abandoned by Disney. Okay, so back in the 90s, Disney is working on this resort called 𝗂𝘂𝗯𝗍 Palace, and it's down in North Carolina. As the story goes, people eventually visit this place, and all is well, except that one day Disney just randomly closes it down, and they never talk about it again. Guy writing this creepypasta is like, I've tried Googling this place, like every way that I could possibly think of, there's nothing that comes up. But maybe it's not that people aren't talking about it, maybe it's that these searches are being suppressed for some reason. So he's going to be the one to blow the lid on this 𝗂𝘂𝗯𝗍 Palace story, right? And he ends up somehow getting to this location. When he does, written in graffiti above the entrance is "Abandoned by Disney." The resort is obviously jungle themed, and so the guy is walking through, snapping photos with his camera, and he eventually reaches the centerpiece of the resort, which is of course 𝗂𝘂𝗯𝗍's palace. Similarly to the gate at the entrance, someone has spray painted the words "Abandoned by Disney" on this building as well. Guy's walking through, taking photos, and he comes across this statue of a really impressively large snake just bathing in the sun. The statue is incredibly lifelike. He kind of can't believe they left it behind, and as he's getting closer to the face to take a detail shot, suddenly the statue lifts its head, looks at him, and then slithers away. It wasn't a statue at all. It was a real snake. Part of the resort had been these live animals that Disney had just released and abandoned there after they abandoned the resort. Well, he takes a second and then explores further, and he comes across an area that says mascots only, thank you. Inside, like you might expect, he finds a bunch of different mascot costumes that people probably wore around the resort. He picks up one costume in particular, like this Donald Duck hat, and he's looking at it. And as he kind of is turning it around, suddenly a human skull falls out of the base of it and onto the floor. This man is about to hightail it on out of there, but I guess he really doesn't want to survive the horror movie because he decides, no, I'm going to take a picture of this skull so people actually believe that I found it. So as he's taking a photo of this, suddenly this Mickey Mouse costume that had been in the center of the room, just like laid out, literally like it was like a body at a crime scene or something, starts to rise from the ground. And it wasn't just any Mickey Mouse costume. Every single part of it was inverted, as if all of the colors had been put through a filter. And as he's staring at it, it suddenly whispers, "Hey, you want to see my head come off?" But imagine it in like a creepy Mickey Mouse voice, you know? This guy books it on out of there, and as he is leaving, he sees spray painted above the doorway, "Abandoned by God." Luckily, he escapes with his life, and he says to end out this entry, he understands now why Disney didn't want anyone knowing about this place. It's because not only did they not want anyone to get in, they didn't want anything to get out. Such a good creepypasta, and apparently there was a sequel called Room Zero that I've never read, so let me know if you'd want to hear about that too. See you tomorrow, and stay spooky, friends.
That story leaves a heavy feeling the moment you finish it. The idea of a forgotten Disney park still crawling with things left behind makes the whole tale eerily believable. The inverted Mickey asking to show his head come off is the kind of detail that sticks in your brain long after you're done reading. It doesn't just scare you, it lingers like a rumor you wish you hadn't heard. What happened inside 𝗀𝘂𝗯𝗀𝗏𝗂𝐻 palace was terrifying enough, yet the next legend manages to push that fear even further, the Wyoming incident. In 2003, something terrifying hijacked a quiet evening of television in Wyoming. Without warning, regular programming was replaced by a strange broadcast that no one could explain. The signal showed unsettling human faces, frozen in bizarre expressions, while cryptic phrases scrolled across the screen. What should have been a normal night turned into one of the most disturbing broadcasts. Interruptions ever recorded. Play the cursed scene.
Let's discuss about the Wyoming incident. This occurred in 2003 in Niobrara County, when a hacker took control of a TV broadcast. Even now, the hacker's identity remains unknown. Anyways, during the broadcast, 7 people were shown types of expression and emotions, causing fear among many adults, especially children. After that, the TV screen went black for a few seconds, showing this kind of disturbing message, like, "This is not a test. You can't hide forever. What's on your mind?" and more. This led to investigations trying to discover who did it and why. That's all, my friends. Stay safe.
Watching that feels deeply wrong, almost like you're witnessing something not meant for the public eye. The faces look uncanny, human but not quite right, and the strange phrases only make the fear worse. It's not loud or gory, but the quiet unease is exactly what makes it so haunting. Even now, the fact that no one knows who is behind it makes the whole event even creepier. The Wyoming incident may have disturbed thousands of viewers, but the next case shows how fear can spread far beyond a single screen, the red face incident. What would you do if a harmless video from your favorite idol suddenly turned into a nightmare? In 2023, fans of 𝗀𝘂𝗯𝘀𝗀𝗋 were shocked when a clip of Chaeyoung surfaced, her face edited into a disturbing shade of red. In Korean culture, this isn't just a color, it's a symbol tied to curses and death wishes. Within hours, the post went from a simple update to one of the creepiest mysteries in K-pop. Now comes the proof.
Let's talk about the red face incident. Back in 2023, JYP Entertainment posted a quite disturbing video on their page. The video contained 𝗀𝘂𝗯𝗀𝗋, a girl from the K-pop group Twice, with a red face. This is the before picture, and this is the edited one. Red face means wishing death upon somebody in Korea. The caption of the video read, "You are going to face the consequences," and the sound in the video also said some disturbing things. Here is the full video.
"You have to pay the consequences now, Chaeyoung. You are going to pay the consequences. Now you are going to suffer. Wait for your death."
Overall, a lot of fans were worried about 𝗀𝘂𝗀𝗋, and many people to this day think that there was a hacker that made that video, because over time there were more 𝘂𝗂𝗯𝗀𝗏 members, shown with a red face. Many people say that if they look into the red face's eyes for too long, they start to feel watched and extremely scared. Stay safe.
Seeing that for the first time gave me chills. The color wasn't just unsettling, it felt hostile, like the image itself carried bad intentions. The captions made it worse, almost daring the audience to believe the curse was real. Even now, I can't decide if it was just a prank gone wrong or something more sinister. If a single red face could shake an entire fandom, imagine what the next story might do. 𝗀𝘂𝗂𝗋. Among all creepypastas, few are as infamous as the story of 𝗀𝘂𝗂𝗋. It begins with a 13-year-old boy who moved to a new town only to face relentless bullying that pushed him beyond the edge. After a violent incident left him disfigured, his mind fractured in ways no one could predict. What emerged from that tragedy was no longer a normal boy, but a figure of horror whispered across the internet. See it for yourself.
Let's talk about 𝗀𝘂𝗂𝗋. By the way, this is a creepypasta. He was a 13-year-old boy who had just moved to a new town with his mother and father. And he was already being bullied a lot in horrible ways that I can't even say on this video. One day at a party, the bullying got a little too out of hand. They disfigured him, lighting him on fire and throwing bleach on his face. He woke up in the hospital with his head wrapped in bandages. His eyelids were burnt off. When he took off the bandages, he noticed his face was all leathery and pale. He started laughing uncontrollably, and doctors just played it off as, oh, maybe it's the medicine we gave him, making him a little loopy. He started saying he loved his new face, and he eventually carved a permanent smile in his mouth, because mentally he was broken. He was no longer that nice little 13-year-old boy. That's when he decided to get revenge on the bullies, taking them out one by one. This watermelon's good.
Hearing Jeff's story always leaves me uneasy. It's not just the transformation of his face, but the way his mind slowly unraveled that makes it terrifying. The permanent smile he carved feels less like a symbol of revenge and more like a sign of complete madness. It's a reminder that some of the scariest 𝗂𝗟𝗋s are born from pain that spirals into something unrecognizable. 𝗀𝘂𝗂𝗋 may be one of the internet's most iconic horror figures. But the next story takes creepypasta terror in an even darker direction. The Smiling Dog. Not every disturbing story comes from the dark corners of the internet, some begin with a simple photo. A few weeks ago, an anonymous man uploaded a picture of a strange husky that appeared on his front porch. The dog didn't move, didn't blink, and just stared directly at him as if waiting for something. What should have been an ordinary encounter quickly turned into one of the most unsettling mysteries online. Let's face the nightmare.
The explanation of this photo is extremely disturbing. A few weeks ago, an anonymous man uploaded this photo to Twitter. He supposedly took this photo about an hour after this dog showed up on his front porch and just didn't move. He said the dog was eerily still and didn't move a muscle and continued staring directly at the man. And this is where things get really unsettling. The man has 2 dogs of his own, and whenever his dogs see another dog outside, they always run to the door and start barking at it. So the man was confused when his dogs weren't barking at this strange dog at the front porch, so when he went to go get his dogs, he found them whimpering and crying in their room. And was starting to panic, so he picked up his phone and called animal control and told them the situation. And as soon as the dispatcher heard what he said, they hung up on him immediately. There have been no updates from this man, and honestly, this sounds just like a creepypasta that's been circulating online. But what if this husky dog is real? I guess we'll never know, but let me know in the comments, what do you think?
That picture is deeply unnerving. The stillness of the dog makes it feel more like a mannequin than a living creature, yet the eyes suggest otherwise. The fact that even the man's own dogs refuse to go near it only makes the story scarier. It leaves you with the unsettling thought that maybe not every animal at your doorstep is what it seems. The smiling dog may have started as a single photograph, but the next case comes from a video that's even harder to forget, the Harbinger Experiment. Some creepypastas scare you with ghosts or curses, this one terrifies you with science. Buried underground was a secret facility where Dr. Zimmerman promised to prove the supernatural was real. Volunteers thought they were signing up for an isolation test, but they were misled from the very beginning. The deeper you go into this story, the clearer it becomes. The experiment was never about testing, it was about creating horror. Now the truth plays.
Can you do the Harbinger Experiment? Warning, this story gets a tad bit disturbing, so if you're sensitive to stuff like that, now is the time to exit. The Harbinger Experiment is a creepypasta story about tests done on 3 subjects to prove that supernatural phenomena exists. As you probably already guessed, these tests go extremely wrong. The experiment was conducted by a scientist called Zimmerman. He had 3 other scientists helping him with this project, one of which is the narrator of this story. In an underground chamber, as you can see, this is the entrance depicted here, Zimmerman had lured 3 test subjects into the testing building, where they were each placed in their own separate confinement chambers. They were lured there under the belief that they would be engaging in a harmless isolation experiment. After the test subjects arrived, they were injected with a substance that Zimmerman had created. Little did they know that this substance would turn them from humans into monsters. Part 2's in the comments.
What unsettles me most about this story isn't just the transformation of the subjects, it's the intent behind it. There's something scarier about humans choosing to manufacture terror than any monster appearing by chance. The sterile, scientific tone of the narrative makes it feel disturbingly believable, like reading declassified documents. It leaves you questioning how far real science might go when no one is watching. From experiments in hidden labs to legends whispered online, the next case shows that horror doesn't always need science to exist. Majora's Mask. What if your favorite childhood game suddenly started playing you instead? That's the fear at the heart of 𝗀 Drowned, a creepypasta tied to the legend of Zelda, Majora's Mask. A student picked up what looked like a normal secondhand cartridge, only to find a save file named Ben waiting inside. From that moment on, the game glitched in ways that felt intentional, as if someone, or something, was inside the code. Here's what they saw.
𝗀 Drowned is a creepypasta about a haunted Majora's Mask cartridge. It tells a story from the perspective of a college student who received a second-hand copy of Majora's Mask from an old man's garage sale. On it was a saved file named Ben. However, the game didn't run like an ordinary copy of Majora's Mask. It had weird glitches and cryptic messages when played, suggesting it was haunted by someone named Ben. What made this creepypasta so popular was that the author also accompanied video recordings of those glitches from the haunted cartridge, giving proof to their story. In those videos, there were constant appearances of the 𝗴ecie of Emptiness statue, which became associated with Ben. The creepypasta became so well known, many now identify Link's 𝗴ecie of Emptiness statue with 𝗀 Drowned, even though it originated from the actual game.
The creepiest part isn't just the glitches, it's the personality behind them. The game seemed to taunt the player, twisting familiar mechanics into something hostile. Seeing the 𝗴ecie of Emptiness statue appear over and over feels less like a bug and more like a presence watching through the screen. It makes me wonder if the true horror isn't the haunted cartridge, but the idea that digital worlds could fight back. From haunted games to cursed legends, the next story proves that fear isn't confined to screens. The red lamp. Not every nightmare happens when you're asleep. Sometimes it strikes in the middle of your life. A college student thought he was living a perfect decade. A marriage, 2 kids, a home filled with love. But it all began to unravel the moment he noticed a lamp in his living room didn't feel right. That single detail exposed a horrifying truth. None of it was real. Don't look away now.
One of the craziest glitch in the Matrix stories I've ever heard has to be the one about the red lamp. This story will make you question everything you thought was real, including the life you're living right now. If you're not familiar with this story, basically 14 years ago, someone on Reddit asked if anyone had ever felt a deep personal connection to someone they met in a dream, only to wake up and realize they never existed. Well, one Reddit user, @Temp2Too_Soon, definitely did, and his story is something else. Now, just for context, this was all posted from a throwaway account, and the original post has since been deleted, but according to him, this all started during his senior year of college. During that last semester, he was brutally attacked by a football player nearly 3 times his size just for walking where the guy was trying to drive. But then the memory of the attack just kind of vanished. He never really thought of it again because soon he would meet a woman. She made his heart skip in the best possible way. He pursued her for months, and within 2 years they were married and she was giving birth to their daughter. 2 years after that, she gave birth to their son, so he had this picture-perfect life, a wonderful job, an amazing wife, 2 beautiful kids who he absolutely adored. But one day he He's just sitting on his couch when he realizes the lamp in his living room feels off. The longer he looks at it, the more it bothers him. He can't put his finger on why, it's just wrong. He becomes so fixated on this lamp that he stays up all night staring at it, doesn't sleep, doesn't move, doesn't even go to work the next morning. He just sits there trying to figure out what it is about this lamp that's messing with his head. His wife started to panic. This wasn't like him. She tried calling people, begged someone to come talk to him, snap him out of it, but he was completely gone. Nothing existed to him except for that lamp. His wife ended up taking their kids to her mother's house, and that's when he realized the reason the lamp felt off, the reason it looked wrong, was because it wasn't real. Once he understood that, once it clicked, it was like the entire illusion started to collapse. The lamp began to grow bigger and bigger until it took up everything. His whole field of vision was swallowed by this massive wave of red. And then he started hearing voices, screams, all kinds of frantic sounds. Then came the pain. Just this overwhelming, crushing pain washed over him as he slowly opened his eyes and realized he was lying on his back, on the sidewalk, surrounded by a bunch of strangers. The past 10 years, his wife, his kids, his job, his home, his perfect little life, none of it was real. He'd been knocked unconscious for several minutes following the attack by the football player, and in that short window of time, his brain created an entire life. A full decade of memories, milestones, holidays, birthdays, love, all of it just gone in an instant. Eventually, a cop helped him into the back of a car and took him to the hospital, but that was just the beginning, because for 3 years, he spiraled into depression, grieving a wife and children who never existed, wishing he could go back, wishing he could fall asleep and see them again in his dreams, but he never did. Although the life that never existed is gone, he did say that sometimes out of the corner of his eye, he catches a glimpse of his son. The boy tries to say something, but he can never hear what it is. That story really makes you stop and wonder, what if everything you believe about your life is just an illusion? Let me know in the comments, have you ever experienced something like that, or any other kind of glitch in the Matrix moment? Be sure to let me know, and I will see you in my next video.
This story is terrifying in a quiet, existential way. It's not about monsters or curses, it's about the possibility that your memories, your family, even your own identity could vanish in an instant. The detail of him grieving a wife and children who never existed hits harder than any ghost story. It makes me wonder if we'd even know if we were living inside a false reality right now. The red lamp shows how fragile our sense of reality can be. The next case proves that sometimes, horror doesn't need illusions at all. Baby blue, blue baby. They say some mirrors don't just reflect your face, they reflect what you've called into them. The urban legend of Baby Blue dares players to hold out their arms as if cradling a child and whisper its name 13 times. At first, nothing happens, and that's when most people laugh it off. But those who kept going described the moment their arms began to feel heavier, as if something invisible was now resting inside them. Time to watch closely.
Can you do Blue Baby? Yes, I can, but this one's actually terrifying because you're summoning the ghost of a baby. And if you mess up the ritual, a horrible woman will show up demanding her baby back. This is Baby Blue, Blue Baby. To summon the baby, wait until night. It's best played in the dark. Go into the bathroom, lock the door, and turn off all the lights. Stand in front of the mirror, hold your arms out, and make a cradle position like you're holding a baby. Now you're gonna say the words Baby Blue, Blue Baby 13 times, and if you mess up, you have to start over. Soon, you will feel your arms getting heavier as if you're holding a baby. The baby will get heavier as it gets bigger and you will feel it scratching your arms. Whatever you do, do not drop the baby. When the scratching starts, you have to act fast. Take the invisible baby and flush it down the toilet before it gets too big. If you manage to leave the bathroom without her catching you, congratulations, you won the game. But if you don't finish in time, a hideous woman will appear in the mirror and scream, "Give me my baby back." She will scream so loud it'll shatter the glass, and if you're still holding her baby, she will take your life. Some say the woman in the mirror is Bloody Mary, and she once broke a mirror and took a shard of it to take the life of her own child. Yeah, this one is very dark, even for me. But I want you guys to remember that summoning entities can be very dangerous, so I recommend that you don't try this at home. If you guys have played this game before or know of anyone that has, please let me know in the comments.
To me, this doesn't read like a playful dare, it feels like a trap disguised as one. The thought of feeling weight in your arms, followed by scratching you can't explain, is enough to make anyone panic. What really gets under my skin is the final warning: drop the baby and she will come for you. Whether it's just folklore or not, I wouldn't risk finding out. Games like Baby Blue blur the line between play and danger, but the next legend erases that line completely. Herobrine in Minecraft. Every game has secrets, but Minecraft has a legend that refuses to die. Players began whispering about a mysterious figure who looked exactly like Steve, but with pale, empty eyes. They said he would appear in single-player worlds, building strange crosses or stripping trees of their leaves, always watching from a distance. This figure became known as Herobrine, and soon the myth spread faster than 𝘂𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀 could control. Here's the chilling clip.
Did you know that the creator of Minecraft had a dead brother that was coded into the game and would allegedly haunt your save file? Or at least that's what the Herobrine legend was speculating, and it was driving 𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀, Minecraft's creator, absolutely crazy. You see, Herobrine was a creepypasta of a creature in Minecraft that looked just like Minecraft Steve, but with a ghostly blank stare who would stalk your character from a distance and do some weird things in your world, like creating crosses and removing all the leaves from the trees. The story got so popular that thousands of videos and posts were being shared online, all claiming that they had proof that Herobrine was haunting their single-player world. And Mojang originally got involved with the story at a point because 𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀 thought the idea was cool enough to consider adding into the game. He would even include removed Herobrine from some of the patch notes just to poke fun at the story. But as time went on, 𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀 got even more annoyed by the story of Herobrine because it was getting to be a little too much. He was getting constantly flooded with tweets and emails all asking him about his dead brother, which wasn't even real to begin with. But it got to the point where 𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀 finally caved in and tweeted out saying, "Fine, Herobrine is real and he gains spooky vengeance haunting power whenever you remind me of him."
What creeps me out most about Herobrine isn't just his blank stare. It's how believable the legend feels inside a game like Minecraft. The world is so vast and lonely that seeing a figure silently watching you almost makes sense. Even though 𝗂𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀 has denied his existence countless times, fans continue to claim sightings. To me, that persistence is what makes Herobrine feel less like a myth and more like a ghost coded into the game. Herobrine may haunt digital landscapes, yet the next legend shows that sometimes the scariest figures appear outside the screen. The Candyman. They say some names should never be spoken out loud because once they're called, they can't be taken back. Candyman is one of those names. The story claims that if you stand in front of a mirror in total darkness and repeat it 5 times, he will come. Not as a shadow, not as a trick of the light, but as a spirit with a hook where his hand used to be. Watch at your risk.
Please do the Candyman. Okay, yes I can, but this one's actually horrifying. Because you're summoning the vengeful spirit of a man with nothing but murder on his mind, and he will do it with a bloody hook where his hand used to be. But since y'all asked for it, this is the Candyman ritual. To summon him, go into the bathroom and turn off all the lights. You need complete darkness to set the mood. Then stand in front of the mirror and say Candyman 5 times. At first, nothing happens, but then in the reflection, you will see a man covered in blood and bees, with a bloody hook for a hand, standing right behind you. He is a malicious spirit fueled by rage, so he is not there to just scare you, he is there to kill you. According to the legend, the Candyman was once a real man who was brutally tortured in the worst way possible. The locals covered him in honey and let bees sting him to death. But before he died, he cursed those who killed him, swearing he'd come back to take revenge in the same way his life was taken. Now they say his spirit never rests and he appears to anyone who dares to call his name 5 times. Would you summon the Candyman? And if you played this game before, let me know in the comments.
What really gets under my skin is how believable this feels as a ritual. Mirrors already carry that eerie sense of another world staring back at you. Add in the gruesome backstory of a man tortured and killed, and suddenly the legend feels heavier, darker. Even if it's just a story, saying his name aloud feels like tempting fate. Legends like Candyman thrive on fear of the unknown. The next case shows what happens when fear itself becomes impossible to escape. The Hookman. It always starts the same way. 2 teenagers parked on a quiet road, thinking the night belongs to them. The music is soft, the world feels safe until a voice on the radio cuts through with a chilling warning. An escaped killer is on the loose, armed not with a weapon you can drop, but with a hook welded to his arm. Suddenly, the dark outside the car doesn't feel empty anymore. The horror starts now.
Can you do the Hookman? Yes. Okay, you asked for it, so here you go. This is the terrifying urban legend of the Hookman. Okay, the story starts like this. A teenage boy takes his date out to a secluded lover's lane. They park the car, turn on some romantic music, and start making out. But suddenly the radio cuts off and a voice comes through the static and says, "A murderer has just escaped a nearby mental asylum. Be on the lookout for a deranged man with a hook in place of his right hand." The girl panics and begs the boy to leave immediately. He laughs it off and tells her there's nothing to worry about and goes back to kissing her. But she pushes him away. Reluctantly, he agrees and drives her home. When they pull into her driveway, she steps out of the car and starts screaming hysterically. The boyfriend rushes around the car to the passenger side, and hanging from the passenger side door is a bloody hook. If they had stayed even a moment longer, they would have been the Hookman's next victims. But that's just in one version. In another, the girl waits in the car while her boyfriend goes to investigate a strange noise. She hears a thumping noise all night only to find his mutilated body hanging upside down from a tree, with his fingers scraping against the roof. Honestly, I like the first version better because at least they were smart enough to leave, unlike most people in scary movies. But what do you guys think of this urban legend? Also, I'm gonna let you guys decide which ritual I talk about in my next video. Should I do 𝗀𝘂𝗯𝗀𝗃 or red door, yellow door? Let me know in the comments.
Instead of focusing on gore, this legend terrifies me because it feels like a morality play. It's less about the killer himself and more about how quickly safety can shatter when you think you're untouchable. The bloody hook left behind isn't just proof of danger. It's a reminder that sometimes leaving early is the only reason you're alive. To me, that subtle warning is more haunting than any brutal ending. The Hookman warns lovers to leave before it's too late. The next story doesn't give you that choice. Cove. Case file Cove, reported as a children's program. Allegedly aired in the 1970s, witnesses described crude puppets and a figure known as Skin Taker, who spoke openly about stealing children's skin. The most disturbing testimony, a final episode of nothing but children screaming, though no broadcast records or tapes have ever been found. See what's been hidden.
Let's talk about Cove. Cove was a supposed children's show that only a small group of people remember. It featured strange puppet characters, including a pirate called Skin Taker, who talked about stealing children's skin. One person recalled the final episode, where the children on screen just stood there screaming. No music, no dialogue, just endless screaming. But when they asked their parents about the show, they replied, "What show? You just sat in front of the TV watching static." So if Cove never existed, why do so many people remember the same eerie details?
Analyzing this legend, the fear doesn't come from what the show displayed. It comes from the absence of evidence. Multiple unrelated individuals recall identical details, which suggests either a shared hallucination or a phenomenon with no clear origin. The static explanation from parents adds another layer. If nothing aired, then where did the imagery come from? Cove terrifies not through gore, but through contradiction. Cove questions the reliability of memory. The next story questions the reliability of reality itself. Ayuwoki. Not every urban legend comes from folklore, some are born straight out of the internet. In 2012, a strange animatronic inspired by Michael Jackson appeared on YouTube. Its jerky movements, hollow eyes, and eerie resemblance to the king of pop gave it the name Ayuwoki. By 2019, the legend had grown so much that it even inspired a horror game where you must escape from the creature. Check this out.
So you like anything creepy, but have you heard of Ayuwoki? In 2012, a YouTube channel named Thomas Ringstorff posted a series of videos under the name Michael Jackson dedicated to showcase an animatronic inspired by Michael Jackson. This animatronic was named Ayuwoki, aka 𝗀𝘂𝗃. His creation was to honor Michael Jackson during his Thriller era. This video became so popular that in 2019, a gaming studio called Deadly Crow Games made a video game called Escape the Ayuwoki. Now, I don't know about you, but this video is just so creepy and I cannot imagine having this animatronic in my home.
What makes Ayuwoki so disturbing to me is how unnatural it feels. Animatronics already have the uncanny valley quality, but this one goes a step further, moving like it's alive but not human. The idea of waking up to find something like that standing in your room is the stuff of pure nightmare fuel. It proves that sometimes technology itself can create monsters. 𝗴ecie shows how horror can be manufactured. The next legend shows what happens when horror refuses to stay man-made, aka Manto. Bathrooms are meant to be safe, but in Japan, legends say one stall hides something far worse than shadows. This is Manto, the red cloak, a spirit who offers you a choice that isn't really a choice at all. Once a man hiding behind a mask and cape, now a ghost bound to bathrooms, punishing anyone unlucky enough to answer him. Sit in the wrong stall and the question will come, red paper or blue? Let's roll it.
Watch out when you're out in public using the restroom, especially in Japan, because you might just encounter him. This is Akamanto, one of the creepiest urban legends to come out of Japan. He is a malicious spirit that haunts public and school bathrooms. Legend says he was once a handsome young man who wore a red cape and a white mask to hide from his admirers, but one day while hiding in the last stall of the girls' bathroom, Akamanto somehow died. Later, he came back as an evil spirit and promised a brutal death to anyone who dared to enter the last stall of the girls' bathroom. Since then, people claim that he appears in the last stall of the female bathrooms waiting for his next victim. According to legend, if you are sitting on a toilet in the last stall and you reach for toilet paper but you notice that there's none left, you will hear a voice ask you, do you want red paper or blue paper? If you choose red, Akamanto will either decapitate you or slit your throat. The blood flowing from your neck will drench your clothes, making it appear as if you were wearing a red cape, just like him. If you choose blue, then Akamanto will strangle you until your face turns blue. If you try to outsmart him by choosing a different color, the floor will crack beneath you and a pair of hands will drag you to hell. So yeah, not a lot of good options. The only way to escape him is by choosing no color or by avoiding the last stall. What would you do if you came face to face with Akamanto?
The detail that sticks with me is how the legend weaponizes something as harmless as toilet paper. A simple request turns into a death sentence, no matter how you respond. That twist, making the ordinary terrifying, is what gives this story its power. Manto doesn't just scare you. He traps you in a game you never agreed to play. Manto turns a restroom into a nightmare. The next legend turns an entire childhood memory into one, Robert the Doll. Robert the Doll first appeared in Key West, Florida. In the early 1900s, he was a gift to young Gene Otto, who quickly became inseparable from him. Over time, neighbors reported seeing the doll move on its own and hearing laughter echoing through the house. By the time Gene died, Robert had already earned a reputation as one of the most feared dolls in America. See for yourself.
Did you know that Robert the Doll is the world's most haunted doll? Allegedly. Robert Eugene Otto was known as Gene and he was born in the early 1900s and his granddad spoiled him. And after a trip to Germany, his granddad arrived home with this monstrosity. So the doll stood at about 40 inches tall and was made by the Steiff Bear Company. And a Steiff historian later said that it was likely that Robert the Doll was made as part of a window display of like clowns and jesters. The little sailor suit that he is seen wearing here is thought to actually be one of Gene's outfits from when he was a little boy. Gene loved Robert the Doll. He adored him. And then Robert the Doll started to misbehave. So things would go missing around the house, things would be moved, and Gene would always blame Robert. This went on for years, and when Gene grew up, he was described as being an eccentric artist, and he kept Robert the Doll. Allegedly, Gene spoke to Robert the Doll all the time, and he treated Robert the Doll as if he were a real child. Apparently, kids in the area stayed away from the artist's house, and Robert the Doll would be perched in the window, and local kids used to swear that they would see Robert the Doll move. Gene died in 1974, and a woman named Myrtle Reuter ended up buying his house, and she also became caretaker of Robert, who was still there. She claimed that she would regularly hear giggling and footsteps running around in the attic where Robert was kept. And it wasn't just her that heard it, guests to the house also heard it. She swore that Robert would move from room to room, and a plumber that was in the house doing some work in the room where Robert was heard giggling and then turned around to see that the doll had moved to the other side of the room. A reporter named Malcolm Ross heard the story and visited Robert, and he wrote afterwards that he could see Robert the doll's expression changing depending on what was being said about him. In 1994, Myrtle donated Robert to the East Martello Museum in Florida. She passed away a few months later, and Robert remained active in the museum. He was eventually put on display and people started to visit him, and apparently cameras and other electrical devices have a tendency to malfunction around him. Not only that, but soon after he was put on display, the museum started to receive letters of people who were looking for forgiveness from Robert. Apparently they had disrespected him when they'd come to see him and had misfortune befall them ever since. So this is Robert now, and you can see all of the letters around him that people have sent. And apparently you have to ask permission politely before you can take a picture of him. And would you believe it, I have a podcast episode all about Robert the doll. It's episode number 70, and it was released on March the 1st, 2020. And can I just say, alright, I'm not afraid of a haunted doll. If I had a doll that showed any sign of being haunted, I'm setting that thing on fire. I'm booting that thing into oblivion. It's a doll. You've got a doll that's causing problems in your life? Just get rid of it. You can overpower it. You're bigger than the doll. It's fine.
The disturbing part is how consistent the reports are across decades. Families, visitors, even workers at the museum describe the same eerie experiences: footsteps, changes in facial expression, and equipment failures. This isn't a story told once and forgotten. It's a pattern that has lasted for generations. That continuity makes Robert more than a local curiosity. It makes him a legend that refuses to fade. That's the end of today's legend. Some stories fade away, but the disturbing ones always find a way to stay with you. If you want more creepy tales like this, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video. It helps keep the nightmares coming. I'll be back with another story soon. But until then, keep your lights on. Bye bye and love you.